morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's a beautiful day out, and it's a beautiful day to begin this conference on prevention of tobacco use in Montana. We'd like to start in a good way. And the way that we're going to start is Amanda Oldcrow is going to sing for us, and that's going to be the prayer for this morning. We'd like to honor the fact that all of us pray in different ways. And so while she's singing the song, pray in your own way. Connect how you need to, and if you close
Well, welcome. My name is Theda Newgrass. My Blackfeet name is Okstukuma, and I just think that's important to mention since a lot of us are coming from different tribes, and a lot of us need to meet each other as a tribe. And just to say welcome. I'm going to be your moderator for the next couple of days, and I just would like to say that it's an honor to come to Salish Kootenai country. And I want to thank the Salish Kootenai people for hosting us. This is a wonderful land and wonderful space, and they're such gracious people. Just to thank them for hosting us. We have an agenda before us, but we're going to use the F word for flexibility. Come on now. I saw some people go, what? The F word. So we're going to use the F word the next couple of days. It's called flexibility, and I'm always reminded about Indian time, African American time, Latino time. Well, this is going to be Salish Kootenai time, and it's flexibility time. So we have a structure, and we're going to go through everything that's listed here, but it may not happen just on the minute. We're not that East Coast. In Montana, as we all know. So first of all, we have some really wonderful guests, and we're really honored. I'd like to invite, I'll say a young woman, because she has done many things, and she's probably going to do many things in her life. She was recently appointed just in January of this year by our new governor. Judy Martz, and she is now the director of Public Health and Human Services for our state. And she's taken her time to come out here and to be with us during this conference. But let me tell you a little bit more about her. She was recently, in 1987 to 1988, she was the Director of Social Service and Rehabilitation Services for the state of Montana. And then before she did that, she, in 1978 to 1987, and from 89 to 2000, she worked in the Office of Public Instruction, and she was the Director of Special Education. And she really helped a lot of the superintendents with their curriculums in the schools. She's done a lot of things in Montana, but I think what I like best is that she's just a local girl. She grew up in Cut Bank, you know, and she probably, knowing that, she probably swam in the area and fished in the area and probably rode around in a truck with a rifle in the back window. Or maybe a couple dogs in the back. And that's probably what Gail brings the most, is that she knows Montana, she knows the prairie, she knows the mountains, she knows the animals, and she knows our state, and she knows some of the things that we need. So I'd like for us to give a warm welcome to Gail. Would you please come?
Thank you very much. You cannot imagine what a treat it is when someone calls you young and you're over 50. It really is a pleasure to be here. It's actually a wonderful treat. I spent most of my hours of the last 2.5 months in the halls of the legislature, so it is exciting to be here in the open air, to go through our spiritual opportunity of a few minutes ago. I certainly need that. It's a great turnout. I cannot believe that you're overbooked. I've worked with conferences throughout my life, and overbooking is a rare problem. And again, it's also a pleasure to be here at SKC. Dr. Joe McDonald and the staff and the students are always such wonderful hosts and hostesses. I really encourage you to explore more of the wonderful artwork. And I think that you know the artist, don't you? The artwork out here? Isn't he from the Blackfoot Nation?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's just the start of the artwork. They also have a wonderful cultural library. Now, I always feel at home here because my great-aunt Lorena was the first female member of the Salish Kootenai Tribal Council. So I always have that connection. And sometimes I can go across the road and actually see Aunt Lorena's picture there. But they actually have given me several jobs to do today, and if I don't do them, I'll probably be in trouble with everyone. And one of them, of course, is to, and it's not a job at all, it's a labor of love, is to provide special thanks to the very hardworking members of the conference planning committee from the, and I always get all these initials mixed up, the MTUPP, the Montana Tobacco Use Prevention Program Native American Advisory Group. Now, it takes me longer to say that than it will be to introduce them all. But you certainly know that it takes an extraordinary amount of patience and cooperation to put on a large-scale event like this. And I'd like us all to share in thanking them. But let's have them stand up first. Catrice Hammond? Okay, you've got to stand up. Okay. Leanne Brucehead. Oh, no, you have to keep standing up. We're going to clap for you when it's over. Lori Newgrest. Lou Mary Spang, Jack Edmo, Lola Whipper, and Charlene Hansen. Please, let's thank them. Now, I also want to take this opportunity to thank people on our staff, the Department of Public Health and Human Services, because they're behind the scenes on all this, and they're the ones we want to talk to because they're the ones that allocate the money for the grants and things like that. And a number of them are here today. So I'd like to have Drew and Chris, you have to stand up too, and Jason, and John, and Susan. Oh, okay. And Ken and Georgia. Would you please thank them too? Now officially from our department, welcome to Montana's first Native American teleconference, I'm really into media now, conference on tobacco use prevention. Many voices, one message. This conference promises to be a dynamic forum, which means it's going to move. I love the F word. I've been a teacher at many levels, and flexibility is the name of the game, and it will be here as well. While we explore the shared traditional values of Montana's Native American Indians. Together we will develop a shared perspective on tobacco use prevention that bridges contemporary Native American Indian and Western European philosophies, providing a means to begin moving these distinct cultures forward in their work to reduce or eliminate the use of commercially developed tobacco products. And let me emphasize that overall, DPHHS, and especially our tobacco use prevention program, are committed to reducing tobacco use among all population groups. Now, we put a special emphasis on prevention and cessation with our Native American population because our survey data indicates that American Indians, both youth and adults, use tobacco products at a much higher rate than do non-Indians. In our department, we have demonstrated our commitment to these efforts by providing funding for tobacco use prevention programs for 7 of our 8 tribal governments and all 5 of our urban Indian centers. We have provided training and technical assistance to our American Indian contractors through the University of Montana Tobacco Use Prevention Resource Center. Those of you that are involved in one of these projects, would you just raise your hand? There should be lots of hands up here. I think it's really impressive when we look at not only the geographical and the cultural diversity of this, but just the total numbers. And I think we're not getting our message strongly enough to people that are frankly are working in our legislature that this really is the case. Now, in addition to these specific grants, our statewide contractors who work with the media, cessation issues, and our social norms projects, with the advice of our American Indian advisors, are developing educational and promotional materials that are specific to the American Indian communities. Now that's just a little overview of the present, but let's explore just the history for a moment. Now, Western Europeans have long viewed tobacco as a substance used to mark entry into adulthood and to achieve a sense of bonding with peers. But using tobacco, as it is currently promoted, leads to quick nicotine addiction, and the relationship and strength derived from its use changes dramatically. No longer smoked or chewed for the same initial reasons of adulthood, the process of addiction keeps a person chained to tobacco. Now, in contrast, American Indians have long viewed and used tobacco as a sacred gift from Mother Earth. And I'm very much looking forward to Dr. Small's perspective on this. The Native American culture has used tobacco to attain and affirm a sense of bonding between people. And tobacco is seen as a means to stay in touch with Mother Earth. American Indians have also fallen victim to the use of commercial tobacco, feeling the effects of nicotine and the power that it has to distort the traditional use of tobacco. This conference is designed to look at the similarities between our 2 primary cultures in Montana and to gain a greater understanding of the Native American perspective. The primary reason that I came wasn't just to welcome you or to participate, but it was to listen, and I hope that we all do that. Tobacco use is a problem that we can address together, but to do so will require a common frame of reference to achieve common goals. To this end, this conference will strive to achieve these goals. I'm a teacher, so we always have numbers. Number 1, goal. Educate the general public about the cultural use of tobacco in Native American society. I certainly include myself in the group that needs to be educated. Number 2, address the challenges of tobacco use prevention efforts in traditional communities, on reservations, and among communities of Native Americans within our state's urban centers. Number 3, Teach people how to advocate for tobacco prevention activities in all parts of Montana. And number 4, open our minds to understand the various perspectives of Montanans and to work together to proceed with many voices, but one powerful message. As you attend the workshops and the plenary sessions, we hope that you will consider how we can together better address the issues of tobacco use in unison. During our time together, we should all ask ourselves how we can do the following. Again, number 1, how can we apply what we are hearing to our life, to our work, and to our communities? 2, what can we do to bring Native Americans and the communities at large together on the issue of tobacco use? 3, what common ground might exist between those of us that are here today? And I think when you look out at our experience of a few minutes ago, you see what we mean by common ground, figuratively and practically. And lastly, what do we see, hear, feel, and think at this conference? Again, I thank you. I look forward to working with you, and I especially look forward to listening to you. Good luck. You're going to have a wonderful time. You're going to have a wonderful experience. And one of the best things you can do is listen to each other. So when you go to lunch or when you go to your breakout sessions or when you're having dinner tonight, talk to some different people, people that you didn't come with, people that you haven't met before. Hear them and also tell them of your perspective. Because if we're going to do something really significant about tobacco use in Montana, we are definitely going to take our many voices and make one message. My pleasure to be here today. Thank you.
For informing us and starting us off on a positive note. We also have another special guest, and it's with great honor. We have Joe Medicine Crow here, one of our elders in all 7 reservations who's looked to for his knowledge and to look to for what he brings to us. And he's come today, and you know, a lot of times when we say we want to understand each other as Native people or we want to understand each other as non-Native people, there's a lot of hard lessons in life. And my sister always reminds me, one of our leaders, Rufus Goodstriker, always says the dilemma for a bicultural Native person is a lot of times you come to a crossroads, and those crossroads will take you different ways. And one of the biggest crossroads, and some of us will meet it sometimes in our life, and some may not, is there'll come a time where you choose the pipe or the briefcase, and you can't have both. And it's a hard, hard lesson. So when I seen him come in, Joe has honored us. He's going to smoke his pipe to give us a blessing here, to start us in a good way. So as soon as I see that, I know I got to put my briefcase and my agenda to the side, because what Joe brings us is the most important thing in this conference. And so I know that I'd like to invite you up, and however you guys want to, do you want to come up here? Do you want us to go outside? How do you want to? Outside? Okay, so is it okay if we go and gather in a circle again outside? He'd like us to go back outside and together in the circle, so if you want to put down your papers and come join us, please. Okay, he's going to light this up, and I'll introduce myself. I'm Leanne Brewsted. I'm the health educator at Northern Cheyenne, and I welcome all of you. This is a beautiful day. We've got clear blue sky. I hope you're all enjoying yourselves. Bernadette, you got to tell me where you got your coat. Looks warm. Welcome, Clayton. You look great as always. Okay, Joe's ready. Okay.
This is the morning prayer by Joe Medicine Crow. Everywhere Spirit, the first maker. I light this pipe and offer it to you to smoke it and ask you to bless this day with many good things. Our Earth Mother, I offer this pipe to you and ask you to smoke it and give us good trails to follow and find places of beauty to enrich our souls. To the east, whence comes Grandfather, Son, I point this pipe to you and ask you to make this day pleasant and comfortable for our bodies. To the north, whence comes snow and cool days, I point this pipe to you and ask you to send us rain and snow to nourish our parched land. To the south, whence comes sunshine and warm days, I point this pipe to you and ask you to send us warm winds to make the cold go away and to melt away winter snows so green things may grow again. To the west, where Grandfather Sun goes to rest for a while and where our ancestors have gone for the long rest, I point this pipe to you and ask you to delay our going and there to prolong our stay here a while longer. Aho. Aho. Okay, that concludes our morning prayer. I guess we will go back inside.
Let's make a more complete circle for the ground. Come on.
Not the whole people.
Where's that bread at?
and we'll send you the order forms. But we'd like to invite you all to come back inside, and we'll start with our keynote speaker.
I always think you're going to fall down. Like, I've always kind of had
Wonderful Round Dance by Amanda Alford.
Blood flowing right there?
Yeah, really.
The greatest lessons in prevention is mind, body, and spirit. And since we're going to be filling a lot of our information with our head and our mind, we just wanted to remind you that a lot of it's internalized through physical. So if you could just visualize today as you go through your workshops and listen to the keynote speaker, which we're about to listen to, visualize that round dance and that we need our mind, our body, and our spirit interconnected in this prevention effort. I'd like to, it's with great pleasure, you know, I'm always given these bios, and sometimes they're 3 pages long, sometimes they're a half a page long. And the person I'm about to introduce is very special to our field, and it's very special to my family. And so it's often, in the Native world, they always want to know, who are your parents? Where did you come from? Who, you know, which way do you believe? Do you wear tight Wranglers or do you wear loose Wranglers? But in the non-Native world, they want to know where you went to school and what kind of grades you had. and those are both very important, because the person we're about to listen to, he's not only a real good Indian, he's a real good cowboy, and in both worlds. And he's one of our very, very esteemed. He's got his master's he got from Gonzaga. He's got his PhD from Gonzaga. And I know when he was getting his PhD, I seen him work really, really hard on it. I seen him working at women and wellness conferences. I seen him interviewing over 200 Native men he interviewed, because he wanted to find out what helped Native men be well. What was the types of things in their life that led them down a good road? And so I saw Clayton do that. But I also seen Clayton in his Indian life on the Northern Cheyenne Reservation. When we go back there and we go over to Northern Cheyenne, I see when Clayton comes to his people, how his people look up to him. You know, how they kind of say, well, he's from here. You know, he's from here. And he does wear tight Wranglers. And they look good. But I also see, you know, when Clayton's at home, you know, he's done a lot of volunteer work at home with Native Action. He did a lot of volunteer work with the youth. He did a lot of volunteer work with the Gathering of Native Americans, Sagona, which was a healing format that he did on his reservation. So I see Clayton in the non-Native world, and I see him in the Indian world, and he's just a great man. But I also recently got to see Clayton in a different light, because he just had a baby girl a couple of years ago. And probably what made me proudest was to watch him with his daughter, Samaya, and just how, and you know how they are when they're two, they're just bossy, you know, no and mine. But I'd see Clayton be patient, I'd see him be loving, and I saw him be a good father. And so I'd like to invite Clayton Small, who's going to share some wisdom and share some information, to come up and speak to us.
It's a pleasure and an honor for me to be here at this two-day gathering, Prevention, Wellness, and Healing Gathering. It's always good to, Montana is such a huge state, you know. Even though I'm here in this beautiful location, I'm a day's drive from where my family is. And I won't get there on this trip. But I see some relatives from Northern Cheyenne that I want to acknowledge here in a moment or two. And many friends from across the state who I've known over the years. And I'll try not to embarrass you, but I want to acknowledge you as well. And Dina didn't mention I'm a practicing trickster. Learning doesn't have to be painful. And I'm a recovering teacher, school administrator, recovering university person. And I've been an administrator in the elementary, middle school, and high school, and university life. And As Gail said, we educators, have a certain way about us. And it's nice to see. Raise your hand if you're in the education field or university field. Yeah. We're all teachers. We're all teachers. We're all mentors. And I'm a recovering macho man. There's many kinds of wellness and healing. Raise your hand if you're on a wellness journey today. If that door has opened up and you looked in the mirror one day and you said, whoa, the enemy is me. I'm the one who needs to change. And that usually happens if we're lucky about midlife. Or I live in Albuquerque. I've lived there since 1993 among the Pueblos and Navajo people and the Apaches and so on and so forth. And when they say midlife, they say mat-life. Okay? But midlife is when we get to be 40-ish. And if we're lucky, we come to the realization that we can be our own worst enemy. And how many of you just woke up one day and said, I'm going to be a different person today? No way, Jose. It happens as a result of what? Suffering, crisis, pitifulness, wallowing in the dirt and the mud, and we can't get any lower. Raise your hand if you've been there. Been there, done that. But we moved beyond that, right? I've talked to the choir, I know that. And what do we do when we're wallowing in that mud and dirt and we're just, stinky and stuck and bitter and twisted? We don't want to go alone. We don't go calmly into the night. As one poet said, what do? We take hostages. I'm not going to go alone. If I'm going to go down, I'm taking as many people with me as I can. So I want to take our theme, which is focused on tobacco prevention, and try to open it up into a much broader context for part of our discussion this morning. And it's important to focus on tobacco prevention through prevention, awareness, education, cessation, policy development, mentoring, spirituality, and ceremony, and all of those things collectively help us to reduce and eliminate commercial tobacco abuse among all of our people, not just Native people, but everyone that's here. And you saw in the round dance this morning, we're all united. We come from many different tribes, many different races, rural, urban, suburban, but we're here on the same mission and purpose. And but I want to take a little broader context this morning and go a little beyond tobacco prevention and look at the history of addictions, unhealthy addictions, tobacco being one of those. And why do we get into unhealthy addictions? Whatever they might be: food, sex, gambling, drugs, alcohol, tobacco, whatever it might be. Why does that exist? Why does that prevail as action and attitude and behavior? And what can we do to lessen that or eliminate that from our lives? So with your permission, I want to take some time this morning to broaden the context of prevention and include wellness and healing in a much broader context. But not to lose sight that we're here for tobacco prevention. How many of you know that stereotype about Indian men? They have no hips and buns, even if they're wearing tight Wranglers. There's a reason for that. Speaking to you as a recovering macho man. I don't do violence, and I try real hard to be positive and see the goodness in people. How many of you do that? Instead of gossiping and backstabbing and glaring and seeing all the negative things in the hearts and minds of people, today you look for good things. Wouldn't it be a better place, our world, if people would look into the hearts and souls of their neighbors and friends and colleagues and community members and nation and see the good things in other people? Our world would be a different place. So anyway, getting back to these tight Wranglers, as Theda mentioned, how many of you are Native women out there? Raise your hands. Look around and see how many beautiful Native women we have here. How many of you are not Native women? Okay, looks like a pretty even split. Well, for you non-Native women, a lot of our Indian women have given up on pitiful Indian men. You're so pitiful, you're never going to change. I'm going to start dating white guys. Hey. negative women. Pitiful as we are, we're working real hard at becoming better persons, better men, better fathers, grandfathers, husbands, sons, brothers. So I want you to look into your hearts in our discussion this morning and take a look at what issues of wellness do I need to work on. Is some of it my relationships with the other gender? If you're a woman, what's my relationships like with the men in my life? If you're a man, what are the relationships like with the women in my life? And so on and so forth. I'm also a recovering snagger. And for those of you that are non-native, you might wonder, what the hell is a snagger? And I should ask my first cousin, Peggy Fedricks, to define what a snagger is. But give me a nod if you know what a practicing snagger is. A lot of heads nodding, a lot of people in denial out there. But a recovering snagger is a person who doesn't take advantage of the other gender or same sex, and is respectful and fosters good, healthy relationships. Some of you out there, I know, that are recovering snaggers used to have championship belt buckles that would cover your whole chest and waist. And as part of your healing and recovery, you had a giveaway ceremony and set it to the side, right? So if you're sitting next to a man, just tell him to relax a little bit. Tell him to breathe, especially back here in the hip and butt area. So that we can just acknowledge that the men here have hips and butt. Would you do that? Go ahead and take a healthy risk. And if you're sitting next to a male, just introduce yourself and tell him to relax and breathe, and life is good, and I'm here for you. And if somebody looks at you that, and some of you are still practicing snaggers, you're unattached and available, and that's okay. Raise your hand if you're a practicing snagger, Amanda. Amanda's the only one healthy enough to acknowledge that I'm available and I'm looking. It's okay, but somebody looks at you that way. In the country we say that way. And you can just kind of give them one of these. Or you can say, yeah. Before I get into the meat of our discussion this morning, acknowledging my trickster medicine. I'm a practicing trickster. And in a moment, I'm going to share with you a kite story, which is a trickster story, as it relates to tobacco as a medicine, a healing medicine. But I want to engage you a little bit. How many of you have a hard time getting out of character? You hide behind a professional shingle, maybe several degrees, titles, positions, big desk, office, and you just kind of like to politely hide behind all those degrees and positions and titles. Yeah. Well, for the next few minutes, we're going to do a little bit of team building. And it requires a couple ground rules. Number one, we're going to have fun. As I said earlier, learning doesn't have to be painful. It can be fun. And two of our greatest resiliencies as Native people, and maybe all people, but I'm speaking in behalf of Native people as part of my experience, is number one is our culture and our language, and in particular, our spiritual practices, our spirituality, and our ceremonial life. That's one of the things I'd like you to walk away from this morning's gathering. Maybe if you weren't aware of that, or maybe just being reminded, or affirming the power of our culture, language, spirituality, and our ceremonial life as Native people. That's our greatest strength. That's our greatest resiliency. Without it, there's no doubt in my mind that is our number one strength. And right behind that, if not right up there with it, is our ability to laugh and play and find humor in an imperfect world. I call that trickster medicine. And I'm hoping that some of you that have a hard time finding humor and laughter in your life, that you walk out of here being open-minded enough to maybe at some point down the road become a practicing trickster. How many of you can laugh at your own pitifulness? Defects, flaws in our character, in our personality, in our attitude and behavior. It takes some of us, especially our men, a little longer to acknowledge that. But once we do, we can even say it publicly. you know, we walk a little lighter and just like, holy cow, why didn't I do that before? It feels so good to be able to breathe, relax, and acknowledge that I'm just what we say in our Indian language, a common person. How many of you can say, yes, how many of you have learned a lot in your journey, your wellness journey? You know some things today, and you're giving it back generously, you know, giving it back, being of service, being a teacher, a mentor. And, you know, that takes living and experiencing life and going around the block a few times, yeah? And so a lot of us are in that position today, and it's a blessing. However, it's also nice to be able to acknowledge with humor those events in our life that mark us and help us to grow. So, with that, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and stand. Put your material down. I want us to work on affirmations today. One of the ground rules, having fun. 2, affirm each other. Be positive. Don't be backstabbing. Don't be gossiping. Don't be glaring. Don't be getting violent. Be positive. Okay? Be positive. And sometimes being positive means just a look. It doesn't have to be words coming out of our mouth. Our nonverbal communication is just as powerful, if not more so, than our words. So we're going to practice affirmations and being positive, offering positive support, taking a healthy risk. Raise your hand if you've taken an unhealthy risk. You almost perished from this world. I'm not going to ask you to go that far. But step up there and take a little risk, all right? And participate fully. Don't be heading for the exit door or heading for the restroom. Engage yourself. So let's practice some affirmations. Raise your hands above your head. And just practice looking at me in a healthy, non-snagging, positive way. And slowly and gracefully, because if you do it fast and it means something else. Slowly and gracefully say big and loud, you're worthy, you're very worthy. Bring it on, tell me. Those of you that really know me, you can say, Clay, you're really pitiful, but you're still worthy. Now I want the first half of the people to turn that way, and the people in the back look forward. Say to each other now, you're worthy, you're worthy. And if they're looking really ushika and pitiful, say you're very worthy. Turn around up front, give yourself a hand for that much. Surviving anymore, I'm not a survivor of this or a survivor of that. You say, BS, I'm alive and I'm living fully the way Creator and the Spirit's intended for me to live. How many of you can say that today? Or on some days, even if it's in a dream state. We have that balance. It looks like this, and I'll explain this a little later, this ledger art up here on the screen. But feeling whole, feeling alive, and feeling like life is good. That means our masculine power, our feminine power is in balance and harmony. In other words, the symbolic word for handsome, masculine power is handsome. The word for feminine power is beautiful. So shake the person's hand on either side of you and tell them several things. You're handsome and beautiful, and you're worthy. Getting acquainted. We're doing some team building. Thea tomorrow's going to do a whole session on team building, and we can't do enough of that. We take ourselves too seriously sometimes, and we don't acknowledge the importance of just reaching out and getting acquainted and trying to maybe with that do some reconciliation. How many of you can do conflict, mediate, reconcile conflict in a healthy way? Yeah. See, we're talking about diversity and unity and working together. How many of you get on a healthy team? accomplished a lot of things. Doesn't have to be sports necessarily. Still good friends with those people, got a lot done. How many have been on a terrible team? Nothing got done. And you walked away, and not only did you leave the team, but maybe you moved 5 states away. So we've been on good teams and unhealthy teams. There's lessons, you know, from both those experiences. So we're just taking a little time to get acquainted because we have a very diverse audience here. Indian and non-Indian, reservation and urban, rural and suburban, and you know, very diverse. So it's important to get take a little time to get acquainted. I want you to take a partner, one on either side of you, and just lock their arm with yours. Everybody's in a team of 2. Teams of 2. If you need to move down the aisle one way or the other, do whatever you need. Take a healthy risk, remember. Go find, raise your hand if you're partnerless and you can find each other. If you see a man raising his hand, he's not going to come to you. You have to go to him. All right. Okay, let's practice some Indian slang. I want you to go shoulder to shoulder with your partner. And when I say 1, 2, 3, go, you're going to say these Indian expressions to each other. Instead of saying isn't it, we say in it. We say eh. So 1, 2, 3, go, you're going to kind of look sideways to your partner. You're going to say in it. Eh. 1, 2, 3, go. And just kind of practice that Indian pointer. You know, instead of saying over there, over here, we go. That lower lip. Okay, working our way down the body, go elbow to elbow. Honoring our Blackfeet relatives, when they say, how the heck are you? They say, okay, Pakani. Pakani, okay, Pakani. So you're going to say that to your partner. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay. I want you to go hip to hip, and if your partner's an Indian man, make sure he's got him. Okay, over in Lakota country, over there in North South Dakota, they say after, how many of you listen to their Indian radio stations? Those crazy Lakotas, after every expression they say, oha, oha, it's kind of like, yeah, all right. So on 1, 2, 3, go, you're going to say, oha. 1, 2, 3, go. Oha! Right. Go knee to knee now. Those of you that are recovering athletes, be careful. Amanda, give me another Indian expression for your travels. Okay, this is from Crow Country. And you're not doing it right, Leah Rootshead, unless when you say the word, your head starts bobbing. And it's yeah. Okay, go heel to heel, but don't click them, you'll end up late here. Who's got another good expression? How about from our non-native relatives? What's a good expression from mainstream America? What's up? 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, this time face your partner in a non-snagging way. And one of you, raise your hand that's feeling really buff and courageous. Just one of you. There's 2 women, they both try to levitate. Just one of you, be the risk taker. You're the risk taker. The other person is your support person. One is risk taker, one is support. Okay? Say the magic words to each other. Say 2 things to each other without smiling, being serious, being respectful. Say, I trust you and I'm here for you. Okay, risk takers, make your body rigid. Put your feet about shoulder width apart. Put your palms up without throwing that Tai Chi move. Support people. Put one leg in front of the other. Bend your knees. Buff up. Anchor. Hunker down. Put your palms up. Touch each other. Palm to palm. Support people. You need to be buff because you said, I'm here for you. Don't let your risk-taking partner come to the floor. On 1, Support people are going to hold your risk-taking partners so they can do 5 standing push-ups. 1, 2, 3, go. But before you do, let me give you some feedback. Good communications, giving, receiving feedback. Some of you, like Theta and Amanda, did full body push-ups, and others of you were doing neck push-ups. So whichever one works for you. But we're going to reverse the roles now. So say the magic words first. I trust you, and I'm here for you. Practicing tricksters. Okay, have a chair. In my handouts, I've got several things that hopefully, I'm not sure where they're available. But somewhere out there, I'm sure they are. I also brought with me 10 copies of a videotape that describes the healing journey for American Indian men, Alaska Native men, First Nations men from Canada. And Theta alluded to some research I did in my doctoral dissertation. And it was a study of healing and wellness challenges for men, Native men. For the most part at midlife, because that's when the journey usually begins. And at some point, hopefully, through gatherings like this, the healing journey will begin for men and women at a younger age. I see some students here. Raise your hand if you're high school or middle school students here, real loud. Give them a hand for being here. So by you teenagers coming to wellness gatherings like this, the hope for adults like myself and those that brought you here is that you'll hear some good things and you'll grow a little bit. And how many of you said, oh, if I'd have just known that, 10 years ago, if I'd just known that, I'd have done something different. Well, teenagers, you're going to pick up some good information here, and your challenge is to take it home, put it in your medicine bag, those teachings, and do something good with it, and share it, and internalize it. And grow. And so those of you that are interested, I brought, I think, 10 copies of the tape, and they're $20 per tape. And if you're working with men's wellness, if you haven't given up on the men in your life, or you think men that you work with, colleagues or youth and so on, could benefit from that, those tapes are available outside there at what's it called, Bernadette?
The exhibit area.
Exhibit area. Okay. It's good to see some of my good friends. I want to acknowledge several people. Langer High School and Busby School brought some of their students and chaperones. I'd like to have my cousin Peggy Federick stand. She's a high school counselor. Yay. And the students from Northern Cheyenne, would you stand? But it's good to see you here. And I have, Theta mentioned I have a new 3-year-old daughter, Samaya. I also have a 14-year-old daughter. And then I have a 30-ish son who came along when I was, kind of a child myself. And he's turned out to be a wonderful husband and father. And his name is Clayton Jr. And very proud of him and all of his accomplishments. He's got 2 little Northern Cheyenne cowboys who are also part Spanish, and various other things. How many of you come from mixed lineage? In addition to Northern Cheyenne, I'm French and English and Spanish all rolled into one. And today I'm proud of all of those different parts that make me up who I am. And for a long time when I was a younger person, I didn't feel like I belonged in any one of those categories, any one of those racial groups. today I have a sense of belonging, and I'm proud of all of those different ancestors that I have. But my oldest son, Clayton's wife, Anita, is a recently graduated nurse, and she's a good mother, and she's here. And so I want her to stand, Anita, right there, my daughter-in-law. So I've been pleasantly surprised by not just friends, but relatives. And when I was working on the Blackfeet Reservation, Lola Whiteford was there. She's been around the block and gone out to Washington State and is now back. Lola, it's good to see you. Go ahead and stand, give her a hand. Leanne Brucehead, a friend and ally, even though she's from the Crow Nation. She's in reindeer country. Yeah. So it's nice to see some friends that we've had a good relationship over the years. So I'm going to ask Amanda to step up here and join me. And I told her earlier, I need your help. And I didn't offer her tobacco, but I gave her a hug and said, I'm kind of pitiful this morning. I need some mood music. I'm going to tell a story. And she said, oh, all right. So give Amanda Okro a hand. She's going to step up. And offer a little voice, music, while I tell a coyote story. How many of you are familiar with Coyote Story, that trickster, called many different names by different tribes? It might be Tomi, it might be the Raven, it's a lot of different things. But trickster, the image of trickster in Indian country is a gift from the Creator. Creator God gave us trickster in whatever form he or she came to our native peoples. And trickster, coyote in this case, is our superego. It's our subconscious, that little voice that sits on our shoulder and tries to get us to do wild and crazy and unhealthy things impulsively, and that we regret later. How many of you have heard that voice or that trickster in your own ear? So, yeah, at least once or twice. And so, coyote had the ability to renew himself, herself. And in his impulsivity and disrespect, he would perish or lose body parts. But Creator gave him or her the gift to come back to life. Sometimes by self, other times with the help of allies and friends. And so Coyote gives us many teachings. And I have this coyote story that comes from the Diné Nation, the Navajo. The Diné people, a prevention specialist by the name of Lawrence Shorty, created this coyote story as it pertains to tobacco. So I want you to listen to it, and I'll share this story with you, and we'll talk about some of the teachings. There's teachings to these oral tradition stories. How many of you know that there are teachings and there are little elements of expressions that we can take and put in our medicine bag and use in a good way? So this is a story of Coyote and how he learns the power of tobacco. And in the Indian language, it's Natoa, it's tobacco. How many of you native people out there know the native expression for tobacco in your language? It means usually the interpretation is a sacred plant that is ground and grinded up for ceremony. That's usually the interpretation for tobacco in our native language. So this is Coyote learns the power of Natoa, or tobacco. Coyote one day saw what appeared like white clouds dancing on mountains, similar to the missions right out our window. And he saw this white cloud bouncing from mountaintop to mountaintop, gracefully, and just a beautiful form. And when he got closer, he saw that it wasn't a cloud, it was the mountain sheep. And so he looked at that beauty and that grace, and he saw that that mountain sheep had great medicine that allowed him to go those distances with ease and with grace. And so Creator God gave the animals and the people the ability to communicate with each other, and gave them a sacred plant, which we call today tobacco, to be used in ceremonies to communicate with the Creator. And like all medicines, tobacco, when it's treated with respect, is helpful. And when it's treated with disrespect, it becomes dangerous. And so Coyote, wanting to control that power of the mountain sheep, pulled over his friend, the red ant. Asked him nicely, and the red ant said, "No, I don't want to do that." And so he coerced him, threatened his life, and finally red ant said, "Okay, I'll help you, Coyote." And so red ant journeyed up to the mountain, and little and fragile as the red ant, it took 2 months to go from the bottom of the mountain to the top where mountain sheep was floating gracefully. Kind of like the amount of time it takes to get from Brockton, Montana to here, Carolyn. 2 months for red ant to go up there and get into the snow and the mountaintops where mountain sheep was doing his thing. And as he studied, red ant studied the mountain sheep, he saw the mountain sheep make an offering. He saw the mountain sheep kneel down and pray. He saw the mountain sheep pick that native plant from the mountaintop, what we call tobacco, and rolled it and smoked it. And then he continued his journey. So red ant said, "I know where that power comes from." 2 months down the mountain. And he was ready to convey this information to Coyote, the trickster. Coyote didn't want to hear about the protocol. He didn't want to hear about an offering. He didn't want to hear about being prayerful. He didn't want to hear about being respectful. He immediately dashed up to the mountain with disrespect and with greed and a controlling mentality, and he found that plant on the mountains and he picked every one of them. He wanted all the power. Wanted to be omnipotent, all-knowing, all-seeing, powerful, but cool. He took all the medicine back down with him. Piled it up. Grew magically a huge corn stalk. That was 4 times. That ear of corn was 4 times the size of Coyote. And he took that corn stalk and rolled that tobacco in there and smoked it. And he could feel himself becoming powerful, macho. And the first thing he did is he went up to the mountaintop and challenged mountain sheep to a race. Thinking that I use more medicine than mountain sheep, I can beat him. So they agreed and they lined up. They were going to race from the east to the west across the mountaintops. And the people, the animals, were watching Coyote because they knew that the fate of Coyote, however it turned out, was going to affect them because they're interrelated. And so everyone was watching. They started off even, gracefully, beautifully. Coyote was right there with the mountain sheep. And they got near the end, to the west. Coyote got to the mountaintop. He started coughing, hacking, spitting, gagging. Smoke was everywhere. It was like thunder and a storm coming. And the wind picked up, kind of like the wind in East Glacier when it blows those trains off the track. That's the kind of storm that was brewing. And Coyote was on top of the mountain, and he fell from grace. And when he hit the bottom, he broke into 1,000 pieces. And the animals circled. And they were angry. And they were also sad. And they took pity on Coyote. And so Red Ant said, "I'll offer some help." And he crawled through the nostrils of Coyote and down his throat and into his lungs that were full of black holes from all the tobacco, the sacred plant that Coyote had ingested into his system. And he brought some of those plants, some of those leaves back out through the throat and nose and laid them on the ground for the people and the animals. And the ceremony was conducted. And they figured out how to save Coyote. They found a couple huge cactus ears and molded them into the shape of new lungs for Coyote and brought him back to life. They agree that that circle, not to take each other's medicine, not to abuse it. Coyote, on the other hand, being the trickster that he is, continued on with all of the other dastardly deeds that lay there waiting for him, knowing that even though he perished, his friends, his allies, or himself could bring himself back to life. And that's the story of Coyote and how he learns the power of Natoa, tobacco. Oh, give a man a hand. So let's take some time to process out what are some teachings that we can glean from that Coyote story. I think the first thing is that, unlike Coyote, we're not supernatural beings. If we abuse this sacred plant, no one's going to be there to jump over us 4 magical times or sing a song or bring us back to life. We're pitiful human beings and make mistakes often. And if we abuse this sacred plant, unlike Coyote, we'll perish and not return in the form that we're in today. So that's a teaching. That's a teaching. And teenagers, I'm a recovering teenager. And when I was your age, I used to think I was going to live forever. I was indestructible. I could drive a car 150 miles an hour and nothing was going to happen. And that's just, the safer things that I did. So remember that we are fragile. Life is precious. We have to be careful how we conduct our life. That's one teaching. Life is sacred. There's protocol. This sacred plant has a protocol to its proper medicinal use. You make an offering. You pray. You humble yourself. You ask for help. And when you do it in that manner, whatever other embellishments a tribe or group may use to use the sacred plant, blessings come to those people and things that they pray for. When it's used in a proper, respectful manner, blessings come. So that's another lesson from this Coyote story. How about communication skills? Coyote wasn't a very good communicator. He heard only what he wanted to hear. He wasn't into giving and receiving feedback and active listening. He was into, what's in this for me? How can I become all-controlling? And so there's a lesson. Creator God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a good reason. We need to use them. Giving, and how many of you can listen and give and receive feedback in a good, healthy way? Yeah. How many of you have people that come to you and say, I really need a friend to talk to. I'm really struggling today. Let's go have a cup of coffee. Can I buy you lunch? Let's go have a visit. People do that? Yeah. And how many of you can listen and say things like, it sounds like you're really upset. It sounds like you're angry. It sounds like you're hurt. It sounds like you're frustrated. Is that right? They keep talking, and pretty soon they solve their own problem. Right? How many of us want to pass judgment and tell them what to do? I told you you should have left that no good SOB. Now look what he's done. So we all can become better at communication skills, giving and receiving feedback, not passing judgment, listening, opening up our minds and opening up our hearts. We should all find a little more laughter and humor in our life. Coyote, as dastardly as he or she is, has fun. And life is meant to be enjoyed. And how many of you, when you get to Creator's door, are going to say, Creator, I wish I had worked harder? Not. We're going to say things like, man, I wish that I'd taken more time with my family. Oh, I wish that I'd taken more time to watch the grass grow and to enjoy life and not get caught up in being a workaholic. I'm a recovering workaholic and codependent man. And I was trying to save everyone's life, and meanwhile, I didn't have one. My life went up in flames several times because I was trying to save the world. How many of you have done there, done that, been there, done that? Yeah. So today we try to serve on less committees And we try to take more time for self-care and with our family. And if we're lucky, we're given a second chance maybe to do those things. So take time to enjoy life. Don't get into power and control. How many of you Indian women out there don't let people take advantage of you? You assert yourself. Stand up for yourself. Set boundaries. All of you women should just kind of levitate right now. That's called asserting your masculine power. Yeah? But how many of you women out there and men, when you see overly assertive and aggressive women come in, you get the hell out of the way and run for cover? So there's that balance there. Men and women alike like to get into power and control, you know. And my friend Theda, is one of my favorite expressions that she coined was, check your ego at the door when you come in to a gathering. When you come in and are part of a team. How many of you can check your ego? Subordinate your egos enough to be a team member, a healthy team member, not sabotaging, not gossiping, but being able to say, well, I don't completely agree with the way things are going, but I'm healthy enough to try to find some common ground. Yeah. So this is another lesson. How many of you know some prophecies? Many of our native tribes have prophecies. We have prophets that lived with our people that, like Coyote, had the ability to renew themselves. We have two. We have two in our Northern Cheyenne, Southern Cheyenne tribe, two prophets that lived with our people over 500 years. And they brought from Creator and the Spirit's teachings, prophecies, that we still follow today. One is our masculine power. It's called 4 arrows, sacred arrows. They're kept in Oklahoma, in the south. And our feminine power, our sacred Sundance ceremony, the sacred hat, Isiwan, is kept in with the Northern Cheyenne down at Lakeview. Those two covenants are thousands of years old. We still have them. They guide us. They protect us. So it's important to understand that part of our culture and that part of our history is still alive. I wanted to explain this overhead up here. It's a Northern Plains victory dance. How many of you know ledger art? Where that comes from? This is a piece of ledger art. At the Nine Pipes this morning, I was awakened by some Canadian honkers. It was a nice wake-up call. And I was out in the lobby there, and I saw that the Salish and Kootenai here are having a reading. An author is putting together some ledger art that describes some of the history of the Salish and Kootenai people. But ledger art has a history to it, and mostly when our people were incarcerated in the early reservation days, they were being forced on reservations, and a pretty destructive way of looking at Native Indigenous people. When they were incarcerated, they were given some materials, bookkeeping, accounting paper, pencils, stencils. They created pictures like this that depicted the way life used to be when they were alive and free. And this is a Northern Plains victory dance. The men are over there. Their faces are painted dark, ash, depicting life that was lost to ensure that the people would be victorious and free. And they're singing, like Amanda used those hand drums this morning. They're singing a victory song. The women on the other side are wearing eagle feather headdresses. They're wearing what used to be called chief blankets, those striped chief blankets. And their faces are painted red and yellow, depicting light and beauty and wonder and awe. And they're singing side by side. Women in our at least Northern Plains were warriors and rode into battle, just like the men did. And one is not up here and down here. They're equal, side by side, singing the same song gracefully, beautifully, respectfully. Life is good. Male, masculine, and feminine power are in balance. So when we conduct our life that way, symbolically, that's what it could look like. Yeah? Yeah. All right. One of the things that I want to challenge you with today, when you go away to the next session, is the whole notion of common ground, the notion of unity. We have Indian and non-Indian. We have rural and urban. We have reservation and urban. We have state people. We have federal government people. We have reservation-based people. This is one of, you're plowing new ground here. This is one of the few examples where the federal government, the state government, and the tribes agree to work together collaboratively and plow some new ground and see what we can do. Sitting Bull said, let's put our minds and hearts together and see what good we can do for our people. And so that's an example. Give yourself a hand for that. Good job. You're looking for some common ground. You're looking for the good things in each other. You're looking into the hearts of one of the new research, one of the new readings that's just come out is that instead of being 5-century people, we're moving into what is called multi-century people, where in addition to the 5 senses, we're going and looking into the hearts and souls of each other and looking for the good things in each other. And as we do that, we're going to change the world forever. Now, some people have been doing that for a long time. I think Native people have always done that. In our heart of hearts, we look for the good things in people. We're resilient. And we overcome lots of adversity. And so we're moving, they say, from a 5-sensory species to a multi-sensory species of people. So this is an example of that. We're trying to lay down, put our armor aside and try to see how we can work together. Federal, state, tribe. And you know, I'm impressed. I'm in awe of what good could come from this kind of collaboration. If people are willing to find some common ground and to come together and look for the good things in each other, how can we continue to work together? That's probably one of the best examples of this 2-day gathering, is looking for ways that we can continue to do that. How many of you think that high-risk behavior happens just in urban ghettos and on reservations and among the poor? That it happens out there. If I live in the rural areas, and if I live in a safe suburb in the city, that I'm going to be away from all that crazy kinds of behavior. Mainstream America seems to be caught up in that, and in denial, and in delusion, thinking that high-risk behavior happens out there somewhere. It doesn't happen in Montana. We're safe here, we're rural, and you know, this is we're good people, and that kind of stuff doesn't occur here. Hello? And I want to give you some examples. The Center for Disease Control, the Health and Human Services, these are some of their statistics about high-risk behavior among the white population, white teenage population. Listen, ages 12 to 17-year-old white teens are 34% higher rate of selling drugs and alcohol. White teenagers are twice as likely to binge drink and drive drunk. White males are twice as likely to bring weapons to school. We just had a recent killing in the San Diego area where 2 people were killed and 13 are wounded. The mayor of that community said, we have good people here. We have a safe city. These things don't happen here. They happen out there. White teens are 7 times higher, use cocaine at a rate 7 times higher than teenagers of color. They use crack 8 times higher rate. White teens use LSD at 10 times the rate of teenagers of color. White teenagers use heroin at 7 times the rate of teenagers of color. So my diverse audience here of Indian and non-Indian relatives, this high-risk behavior doesn't just happen on reservations or among the poor or among people of color or in the urban ghettos. It's all around us. It's time to wake up and smell the coffee and try to take a look at how can we work together. How can we work together to lessen this kind of delusional behavior, this kind of delusional view of the world? It's happening all around us. And I hope that at some point we can stop using high-risk behavior. I would choose to say our young people, our children and youth of hope and promise. If we look at them in that light, how many of you know what a self-fulfilling prophecy is? If we tell kids they're good, they're handsome and beautiful, they're worthy, guess what? That's what they become. If we tell them they're high risk and they're never going to amount to anything and this and that, guess what they're going to become? How many of you said, I'll never be that kind of a parent? I'll never be that kind of a husband. I'll never be that kind of a wife. Whoa! Who did we turn out to be? Mirror image of mom and dad. Until we made a very concerted effort to create change in our life and break some of the cycles that we came from. There's resilience. How many of you are resilient out there? You overcome a lot of stuff. How many of you know people in your immediate family that aren't as resilient? That maybe spent time in prison, incarcerated, dropped out of school, got into a bad car accident. We all have immediate family members who, for whatever reason, just aren't as lucky or resilient as we are. And I don't know what the answer, why that is. Why some people have been blessed with more strength, more resiliency than others. It's almost like Creator said, this group of people are going to have to suffer a little more than this group over here. But through helping each other, we can build up the strength in each other so that resiliency can have more of an equal footing among our young people, for sure. You know, I do a lot of work in schools, and one of the things that they're teaching now in our schools across the country is called social skills. Counselors out there know what I'm talking about. You know what social skills are? They're things that used to be taught in the home and family and in the community. They're things like teaching kids not to be so impulsive, making quick decisions and regretting it later. To have empathy, to have compassion, to express your feelings in a healthy way, to deal with anger and rage in a healthy way, not to be bullying, to help create a sense of belonging. We're actually going to great efforts these days to teach these skills in our schools. They've been lost, they've been set aside. Our families aren't putting the emphasis, and our communities are turning their heads and saying that's not our job. And so we have a lot of dangerous behavior going on out there, which is all the more reason why we need to pull together and find this common ground, because it affects all of our families, all of our communities. It's a time for reconciliation. It's a time for healing. Not just in our personal life, but in our families, in the communities that we serve, in the organizations that we represent, and in the state that we live in, and in the nation. So I hope that today, in your breakout sessions, you can take a look at some of those challenges. I wanted to share with you just a reading from the Northwest Portland Area Indian Health Board. 10 things most people don't know about smoking and tobacco, commercial abuse of tobacco. Smokers are about twice as likely to die from cancer than non-smokers. Smokers are about 3 times as likely to die from heart attacks as non-smokers. 53,000 people die each year as a result of secondhand smoke. More than 2,500 deaths of infants under 1 year old are attributable to smoking by mothers. 60% of children who smoke start by the age of 14. Children who smoke are 15 times more likely than non-smokers to go on to use narcotic drugs. In other words, it's a gateway to other drug addiction. The tobacco industry spends more than $4 billion per year to promote smoking, more than is spent advertising and promoting any other product. Cigarette smoke contains over 4,000 chemicals, more than 30 are known to cause cancer. Smokers retain in their lungs more than 70% of the tar and nicotine they inhale. The cigarette is the leading cause of fires. 1/3 of home fire deaths result from smoking. 46% of Indian men, 54% of Indian women smoke, compared to 34% of men and 28% of women in the general population. So, prevention. Prevention is an incredible way to intervene in a healthy, proactive, positive way to reduce and to eliminate these kinds of statistics. Policy development is the last thing I want to close with. Out there on the table I gave an example of a tribal resolution. How many of you have a smoke-free workplace? That your tribal council has passed a resolution? Look at all these hands. That's great. How many of your tribal governments actually enforce the resolution and have some teeth in it? Yeah, see, that's the trick, is that it's one thing to pass the resolution and create policy, and another challenge to enforce that. So policy development is another challenge that we need to take a look at. In addition to prevention and programs, what can we create through our leadership? And we have some people here that are going to be talking about those things. So I want to tell you that you're handsome and beautiful and you're worthy, and I hope this conference goes well. You all take home some good medicine. And I'm doing a workshop tomorrow going into a little more depth about prevention and wellness and healing, and those of you that are interested in that direction, I hope to see you tomorrow. I hope your breakout sessions go well, and I'm going to turn it over to Theda for any other announcements for the day. Let me know I'm worthy, if you would.
How many of you enjoyed Clayton Small? It's always a pleasure, Clayton. We worked together many years, but it's been a few months, and seeing him motivates me, and I had to look back and let my buns come out a little and, and breathe. So thank you very much. Well, we've started off in a good way. We've had our prayers from Joe. Thank you, Joe. And we've started with a wonderful keynote and a wonderful welcome by Gail. Would like to just take a moment here, and I'd like for all of the committee members just to come to the front. Could you please, Leanne, Jack Edmo, Lola, Lori, all of the committee members, please come to the front. Kristen, Catrice, Virginia, would just like all of you. And I'd like just to mention one of the committee members that probably has put the most blood, sweat, and tears into this conference. It's always important, part of prevention, we forget to tell people who work the hardest that they've done a good job. And one of the women that has probably done the most work on this conference is, I'd please like her to come and stand in the center, is Charlene Hansen. Charlene, would you please come stand center? Charlene. You know, Charlene, you guys, she made sure the rooms were okay. She made sure that all of the tedious stuff, and so.
That's Jenny.
Oh, Jenny. Okay. Okay.
I'll just take a second. One of the things that Charlene did for us, she came in late into the planning cycle and just jumped on board. She actually has a full-time job. She got time off from her full-time job. She got leave from Lake County Health Department.
Yeah.
She works long hours with us. She was here over the weekend with us. But on top of that, one of the things Charlene did for us is she really got the Salish Kootenai involved in this conference. She got them at the last minute to help sponsor the conference. So a lot of the beautiful things that you see here are a result of Charlene's direct involvement. She also intervened and got some of the Salish Kootenai elders and other members of the tribes to participate in our panel sessions. This is all last minute, and we can't thank her enough for what she's done for us, and that's why we want to recognize Charlene, because without her, we wouldn't have that very special Native spirit from this area. Thanks.
Charlene would like to give you these flowers, and they smell wonderful, just to remind you of the good job that you did. So thank you very much. Let's give her a round of applause. And now we get to practice what Clayton taught us. Would you please tell this committee that they're worthy? You're worthy! Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you very much, committee.